Did you know that the Bosstones weren't always Mighty Mighty? As it turns out, the group changed their original name after discovering a 50s-era doo-wop group that also went by the Bosstones. Keep watching to learn more of the untold truth of this Boston-based band. The Bosstones were a group that proudly wore their Boston roots on their sleeves, so it's not terribly difficult to guess where they got their name. Boston plus boss plus tones equals Bosstones. A great way to advertise your hometown spirit, your awesomeness, and the fact that you play music all at once. But what makes them mighty? And why are they mighty twice? The answer is a tale as old as time. The band realized too late that another musical artist had been using their name. The group had originally christened themselves just the Bosstones, but around the time they began recording, discovered that another group called the Bosstones had done some recording a quarter century prior. The Bosstones were a doo-wop group that had recorded only one single in 1959, the Mopedy Mope. The single was almost entirely forgotten, but the band sensed that sticking with their original name could lead to legal or commercial problems in the future. A bartender friend suggested they add Mighty Mighty to their moniker, and the band had solved the problem and invented one of history's catchiest band names all at once. Part of the Bosstones' enduring iconography was their apparent love for all things plaid. The kilt-ready pattern was present in the backdrops for their concerts, on their album covers, and even in their music videos. Most notably, the band was known for playing all of their shows in full plaid business suits. So what's the deal with all the plaid? Most likely, the actual impetus was just a case of the band recognizing good branding when they saw it, but several members of the group have offered more colorful explanations. According to lead singer Dickie Barrett, it was a reaction against the musical trends of the early to mid-1980s. Barrett told the Boston Herald in 2007, "What was going on musically when we started was all that glam metal stuff. We were wearing cummerbunds and plaid. We were saying screw you to everybody and people liked it." Bassist Joe Gittleman, on the other hand, once told the Los Angeles Times that the choice was much more of a goof on the band itself. "We were not musically proficient in the early days. We wanted to offend people's sense of sight as well as sound, so we started packing plaid. As for wearing suits, according to dancer Ben Carr, those were just a matter of respecting the audience." Carr told Vice, "If people are going to pay their hard-earned money to come see us, we're going to dress up for them." And speaking of dancer Ben Carr, yes, one of the members of the 9-piece ensemble was a full-time dancer. Other musical acts have been known to employ backup dancers for touring purposes, but the Bosstones were one of the few bands to have a full-time member whose one job was to dance around on stage and hype up the crowd. Carr also served the band as a tour manager and roadie, and occasionally contributed backing vocals, but his main job was just to jump around on stage for the entire set. How did Carr, a man with no training or experience as a dancer and seemingly nothing in his favor other than an irrepressible energy, land what might be the best gig in the universe? Mostly just by being too young to get into a bar one time. Carr told Vice, "I was a roadie. A club said you gotta be 21 or in the band, so the guys were like, 'He's in the band.' And they said, 'Well, you gotta get up on stage now,' and I just kind of went with it. I sort of got up there and jumped around and sang some backup vocals so I could just stay in. It worked well enough that the band kept him as an official member for decades." In between gigs, the members of the group have done some other pretty interesting things. Lead singer Dickie Barrett in particular once starred as classic rock and roll musician Bill Haley in the made-for-TV movie Shake, Rattle, and Roll. His most impressive non-Bosstones accomplishment, though, is serving as the announcer for late-night variety show Jimmy Kimmel Live since 2004. Jimmy Kimmel, in turn, once returned the favor by joining the Bosstones on stage to play bass clarinet on The Impression That I Get for a show in LA. In addition to sharing the stage with Kimmel, the Bosstones once shared the stage with Elmo in a not particularly well-reviewed ABC special called Elmo Palooza, and founded a vinyl record label 20 years before the vinyl craze began. In 1993, when CD sales were skyrocketing and vinyl was at its absolute nadir, Barrett and Company started Big Rig Records as an outlet for putting out Bosstones content on LPs. Big Rig did well enough that it's still around and even putting out albums by other groups. They'll give them credit for being far ahead of the curve there. Even as they became something of a sensation, the Bosstones never lost sight of their Boston roots.
Back home, this would last about 30 minutes on the street. In Boston, this would be in somebody's backyard in a heartbeat.
In 2021, Barrett told Spin that he had hung on to the same cell phone number since 1994. "I just kept it everywhere I went. It's fun to drop on people. If you run into somebody in LA and you give them the phone number and he's like, 'Oh, dude, you keep it real.'" In truth, it's hard to think of a Boston group with much more hometown pride than the Bosstones. In addition to recording an entire song about controversial Boston Mayor James Michael Curley, the Bosstones continually try to get back to the city. For 22 years, they hosted the Hometown Throwdown, a music festival that showcases local punk and ska acts. Even mega hit The Impression That I Get was originally recorded for the charity album Safe and Sound, which supported local women's health and education efforts. A racially integrated band, the Bostonians also featured information booths from the Anti-Racist Action League at most of their shows. Sadly for fans, it seems that the band broke up in January 2022 amid controversy over the song Heart of Freedom, promoting Robert F. Kennedy's Washington, D.C. anti-vaccine rally. The song was written by RFK Jr. and appeared to have been produced by Bosstones frontman Dickie Barrett. No official explanation was provided by the making of this video, but the band tweeted from their official Twitter account in part, "After decades of brotherhood, touring the world and making great records together, we have decided to no longer continue on as a band." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite musicians are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.